Welcome to Work From Your Happy Place, the podcast that equips you with the tools, know-how, and motivation to live your dreams and find your happy place. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter for a recap of the week's guests and a preview of what's in store. To sign up, simply text the word Happy Place with no space to 33444. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the host of Work From Your Happy Place, Belinda Ellsworth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work From Your Happy Place, our artist edition. I'm your host, Belinda, and I'm very excited to dive into our conversation today. I have Paul Canaan with me, and Paul is the founder of Take It From the Top, a performing arts program which connects young artists with professional Broadway mentors. His Broadway credits include Kinky Boots, where he was dance captain and original Angel, Miss Saigon, Thoroughly Modern Millie, La Cage aux Folles, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and Legally Blonde. He also appeared as a judge on the MTV reality show Legally Blonde, The Search for Elle Woods. It is my pleasure to welcome Paul to our show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm just real excited to dive in here. So before we sort of get into some of the big highlights, why don't you take us back? Let's go on a little journey and fill in some of the gaps of this bio and just kind of let everybody get to know you a little bit better and how you got started in this.
I mean, I was just a kid. I was a musical theater kid. I loved Gene Kelly and I loved musicals, and I just wanted to find a way to be on stage if I could. My mom was kind of a performer growing up. She was a dancer. My dad was like a designer. So they both were kind of artistically like minded.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, before that, I was just a hyperactive kid. So my mom threw me into gymnastics because I kept like knocking myself out in the backyard by trying to teach myself how to do flips. Like, why don't you go where they teach you how to do it so you don't kill yourself? So I took gymnastics for a long time, and then a local show needed a boy, like they always do, to be in a Bye Bye Birdie production when I was like in the 4th grade. And they needed me to do flips. And I was like, I'll do flips. And what is all this? What's going on? And I just fell in love with the storytelling that happens on stage. And I was Harvey Johnson, this like weird character that like got a laugh. And I heard in this dark room, an audience like laughing at something I did. It was like, whoa, I think I just made all these people happy. What's happening? So I just got the bug, and I did all through high school. I did every choir I could. I choreographed for my show choir. I did all the musicals. And then by the time I got to college, that was what I was going to major in. So I decided to major in musical theater. And I actually grew up in San Francisco. My parents would take me to see shows, like professional touring company shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see what was going up on that stage and was just like, how do I do that? Do they get paid? What happens? I'm obsessed. I feel like I'm going to explode. It just hit all my little happy bones and creative bones. And I just knew that was kind of my path. So I auditioned. So the road to Broadway was actually kind of a fluke, and it was fast and weird. So I went to school at Brigham Young University in Utah.
Okay.
That's the side random note that I grew up Mormon. I went on a mission, which is funny because a lot of the guys that I went to BYU with were in the Book of Mormon, the Broadway show, and we all like, laugh about it. Like,
Yeah.
This is about us growing up. But in school, they had auditions in Salt Lake City downtown my last year in school for Miss Saigon. And I went to the audition with a couple friends thinking nothing of it. I'm like, I'll just do this for the experience, see what happens. And they called me 2 weeks later and were like, can you be on Broadway in Miss Saigon? I was like, come again? Confuse me? What happens? So I was on a plane and finding an apartment and finding where the theater was. And I just was really, really green and had no idea about it. And I learned as we went, and I went into the show and was terrified. It was not working from a happy place. It was working from a place of fear. But then I got to connect on like a professional level with like what
Mm-hmm.
I've grown up loving so much, which was a little bit different, but I came around to many different experiences of original cast of Legally Blonde and Kinky Boots and becoming an associate and all that being a part of the creation of these shows and stuff was so fulfilling and made me so happy, and led to all the other stuff I'm doing now, which is kind of on the other side of the table. I don't have to be on stage necessarily to feel like I'm living out my passion.
That's awesome. We'll transition into that in just a moment. So I can imagine that was terrifying. And so then how long did it really, or did it set in that like I'm on Broadway, and for that fear to sort of dissipate a bit and really just sort of enjoy the moment that you were in?
I mean, it's interesting. Broadway shows are, they're kind of a business, and that show had been running for 10 years. So those actors had been in that show 8 shows a week for 10 years. Many of them, 4 of them were original cast. They'd been there for actually 10 years.
Wow.
And when you join something like that, it's like jumping on a moving train, because I didn't know the show. I didn't know how anything worked backstage. I didn't even know what like a headshot was. The headshot in the Broadway playbill is a picture of me that my mom took on like the stairs of our church with her camera. It wasn't a professional headshot, which is what I actually love. Like, side note about teaching young people about theater, because there was so much I didn't know, and so much that I could have used a little bridge to like, can someone break down how this works? Because I don't know what happens right now. But a few weeks into doing it, because again, when you're in college and high school, you do a show for a weekend, you go out with your friends, you have fun, and it's done, and you're back to school, you're back to your life. This was every day, every night, the same show, the same costumes, seeing the same people. And I think after a couple of weeks, I was like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. I'm getting the hang of New York. There's also a whole lifestyle change. I hadn't been here hitting the pavement with my headshot and resume going to auditions like so many actors do. I realized how lucky I was, but I also had like a lot of learning to do, because I was just young and by myself. I didn't have any friends here.
That had to be challenging. I mean, You're right. It's a huge cultural change.
Yeah. The real turning point, I think, was from that show. I went on a tour of Annie Get Your Gun, and there were kids like me that were right out of college, and they were young, and we were touring the country, and we were staying in hotels, and they were in the same boat as me. And I felt like a camaraderie with people kind of for the first time. So that, and I was on tour for like a year. We went to Detroit, we went to San Francisco, we did all the, fun cities everywhere. And that's when I kind of was like, oh, this business is really fun.
Aw, that's great. So how many years were you doing that before you really started doing what you're doing today?
I mean, I did Broadway shows for 15 years. I did 8 shows a week for about 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I did in between, I'd do like Radio City, and I did the Christmas Spectacular, and I'd go do some regional jobs, which I loved so much. But like Thoroughly Modern Millie, I was in for 2 years. Legally Blonde was 3 years. Kinky Boots was a little over 3 years. So you add it all up, it was a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so incredibly grateful because it's all I wanted to do. And I was doing what I was wanting to do. And I never had to be the star of the show. I was happy being in the ensemble of a Broadway show and getting a paycheck and just paying my rent and being able to go out with friends. Like, I was fulfilled and happy. I wasn't really putting demands on my life and my career during that time. I am now. Now's a different time.
Right.
Now I want the world.
So how has the career sort of affected your lifestyle today?
Like my performing career?
Yeah. Or like what you're doing today. Like, what's that lifestyle look like? So that was intense. It's eight shows a week in New York City. It's pretty fast paced. And now it's much different. So how is that? How is your life sort of settled into what you're doing today? And what's that look like?
I mean, I think as a professional dancer for so long, I think I kept healthy habits, just because
Mm-hmm.
when you're your business in a physical way, you just kind of have to stay healthy. So I think I've kept that as a part of my daily regimen.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned so much. I've kind of gone back to school in a way that I've had to learn so much about business. I run a for-profit licensing company and I run a nonprofit education company. And between the two, I've had to learn what spreadsheets are and what, like, I never went to business school. I was a dancer my whole life. So I had to learn the hard, like, finance and stuff. And I had to just take stuff from square one and
Mm-hmm.
stop pretending I knew everything and just start asking all the questions about everything, which in the pandemic was a level higher of that because everything changed and we all had to figure out how we fit into this kind of new world and what we can contribute and where we can be happy and successful and make money to survive. Like, it all kind of comes together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I just feel lucky I've been able to stay in the same path, the same kind of passion path that I've um, always been in. I don't feel the need to be on stage, but I still get to support. I get to create theatrical opportunities for a lot of different people around the world.
That's great. So tell us more about Take It From the Top.
So Take It From the Top started about 13 or 14 years ago. And we actually started at the Wharton Center when I was in Legally Blonde, the original Elle Woods, Laura Bell Bundy, um, who's a brilliant, creative kind of unicorn muse of mine. She's just one of those people that you can just bounce any idea off of and she'll have 10 interesting little paths for your idea. But she did a show at the Wharton Center. I came with her, like, sang backup. And then I said, what if we get the local schools? Like, there must be an education department at the theater. Let's get local schools to come learn about this show we're doing. And they just filmed it all on MTV. So people kind of knew who we were, or if they
Mm-hmm.
watched the show. So we had like 150 kids that came to the Wharton Center. And I'm like, we're going to split them up. Some are going to dance. Some are going to sing with you. Some are going to do an acting class. And we're going to rotate them. And we're just going to give these kids a musical theater experience and music and dance and theater. And we'll do a big Q&A at the end and we'll see how it goes. And it was really successful. And the president, Mike Brand of the Wharton Center, called us on our way back. We came up with this plan. We're like, we should go back and do a bigger thing. And he was like, you guys killed it. The kids loved it. We don't have a lot of stuff like this. Let's build something together that can be valuable for kids in this area, for young artists to just kind of explore everything. So the next time we came back, it was like a week. I said, let's do a full week. Let's settle into a bunch of theater. Let's do a bunch of numbers. Let's see what the kids want to learn. Let's take what they're already learning and, like, try to add to that. Because everything I do, I never want to take away from any educational opportunity that's already in place for students. I really just want to add to, this is our experience. This is my experience. This is my teaching artist experience. Take that, throw it into your bag of tricks, keep moving through this massive world of opportunity and learning. I'm not trying to start a church by any means.
Well, that's great. And so then it just continued from there.
Yeah, so we grew in Michigan. They sent us to Grand Rapids. They sent us up to Traverse City. So we kind of had a 3-week program going on. And in that time, Laura Bell and I just kind of called other performing arts centers, and we kind of booked ourselves in California, in a bunch of places. So now we're in Orlando at the Dr. Phillips Center. We're in Nantucket. We're at the Paramount Theater in Aurora, Illinois. And we're in Michigan. And then we do a few New York kind of fundraising and, like, weekend workshops and stuff in New York.
Great. Now, what kids usually come out for this? Like, what's the criteria as far as, or do you have one, or how did kids find out about it?
I mean, the one in Michigan is probably the best, like, advertised and pushed out, but it's usually 10 to like 19-year-olds. We started a new program 2 years ago, Creative Kids, that's 7 to 9-year-olds, and it's kind of
Okay.
specialized in their material and stuff. but it's really for everyone. We have a program. Our intensive week is just come have fun. Let's learn a bunch of